Yo. Yo. Yo, dole. Ooh. Yo, dole. Ooh. Yo, yo, how do they do it? Yo, no, I'm joking. That's not a yodel. That is not a yodel. That is not. Negative on that. One Sir Grove, this is C4CW casting 495 celebrities worldwide. If you are true fans of this show, then we 495 most certainly appreciate you. And then the audience is supposed to go, yeah. Man, oh man. So it's Sunday. Thank God. TGIS. Thank God it's Sunday. You know what I mean? And the weather is lovely. You know, if somebody were to say, like, visit from, I don't know, man, some country that's not on the list of countries affected, and that person were just like, I don't know, like a simple person, but nothing, you know, irrational going on, and that person just didn't watch TV, maybe part of some type of, like, I don't know, group, maybe similar to the Amish or, like, Quakers or Society of Friends, you know what I'm saying? It would just look like a normal fucking day here, man. It doesn't look like there's anything weird going on. Doesn't seem like there's, like, some type of, like, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And, cause I'm not mainstream media, so I don't want to fucking say it. I don't need to, you know what I mean? It's like I'm not out here to fearmonger. I see people jogging. I see people buying groceries. I see people driving around. I'm driving around. People look happy. People are having conversations that appear to be cordial. You know what I'm saying? It's fucking partly overcast, but there are some patches of blue sky. I mean, it looks nice. It looks like the fucking summertime. It's 70 degrees on the digital display, and it's 3:17 p.m. on 5 April 2020. Yeah. Let's talk about John Titor. You're probably like, what? For those of you who are like, dude, how do you go from that to John Titor? Well, it's completely relative, man. It's absolutely relevant. And it is all relative to the observer. So, John Titor. So some people, I'm just saying, some theorists, some air quotes debunkers, that fucking kid, man, that debunker motherfucker. Listen. This is what I have often stated for the official record. As One Sir Grove, that is my rap media persona for hip-hop rap. I have other personas. But in the world of hip-hop rap, that's my main persona, One Sir Grove. OSGOE, a.k.a. Grandmaster Grove. And a.k.a. Big Grove Dog, a.k.a. Grovey D. Yeah. So, and many others, of course. Aliases. Yeah. Back to John Titor. As if I forgot. So, I have often stated for the official record, because I study science, I apply science. I work in the field because, well, it's kind of hard to explain, but I'm a defense contractor. So I've worked in medical spaces, IT spaces, science spaces, computer science spaces. I'm a technical specialist. I perform and conduct analyses. So I look at information, I chart it, graph it, map it, notate it, and then I share my notes with folks. And we compare and contrast. And we also build and develop and tinker around with algorithms and see what we can do to make things more efficient and sometimes to repair systems. And so in that, John Titor, I have said that even if these debunkers, even if they are correct in their assessment that it's just a made-up story, like someone just made up the story of John Titor, hey, listen, I've said that many times. If you've listened to my podcast and you've followed for any length of time and you've heard my dissertation on the subject of John Titor, the story of John Titor, the alleged time traveler, I have forever and always said, hey, look, because it's entirely possible that someone totally just made up the story. And if someone did, which some people are saying, might say, bro, that's the greater likelihood, that, time travel's not real. So, somebody made up the story and they've just never figured out, who did it, but somebody done it. And, yeah, I know it's did it, but I said done it, you know what I'm saying, for effect, that vernacular, you know what I'm saying, little country twang to it. I'm not saying everyone in the country speaks like that or talks like that, but I'm from a little small country town, so I do. Yeah! But when I'm speaking the Queen's English, yeah, it is entirely possible that whoever did it, if someone actually did it, that is made it up, fabricated, just conjured up this story, and it is a hoax. Well, that doesn't mean, listen, this is the catch, this is the clincher here. That doesn't mean that it's not a true story. I mean, this can be said of any story. It can be said of any story. It can be said of any story. I believe that human beings, when they think about what it is that they want to write about, like, from where should I draw? Okay, well, let me see. I'm contemplating writing a story about, the following. And, I had some writer's block, but it's becoming increasingly clear. It is clearer in my mind now that, my story will consist of these people who live in this small town, and I'll place this town somewhere in whatever geographic location. Okay, and so when these people who are these authors start the process of writing, where are they getting that information? Where is it coming from? Is it coming from inside their human brain? Or is it coming from some non-local intelligence, like from somewhere else? And they just don't know that. Now, that is not to say that every story that's written in a book is somehow true somewhere out here in the multiverse, like somewhere, But, if you watch movies, a lot of times people say, dude, that's so, like, The Simpsons predicted that in, like, the cartoon The Simpsons. Well, you know how many things, have you ever heard of this, where The Simpsons have predicted these things that have turned out to be true? Like math formulas and things like this, like the Higgs boson being discovered. I mean, I know that might sound wacky to some people, but it's true. Matt Groening and his team, through their process of writing, they had written some things into the Simpsons cartoon that turned out to be true, and it's not just one or two things. It's a handful of things. So these people are brilliant, and they have their thinking caps on, and they're definitely drawing, no pun intended, they're drawing from somewhere. They're drawing from somewhere outside their own minds, outside their own human brains. They're connected to some type of non-local intelligence. And just like Russell Targ, physicist, SRI, program that is the remote viewing program that Joseph McMoneagle and Ingo Swann and many other gifted psychics and remote viewers have been a part. They have themselves drawn from, as Russell Targ has referred to it, a non-local universe. He says, Russell Targ stated that this is a non-local universe. And if you watch his presentations, he says that when you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror, if you think that's you, at some point, you have to come to the realization that that person that you're seeing is not you. I'm just saying, man. That's what he said. And I've talked about that before. You know, I have referenced and cited his comments regarding such previously, before. So, if we're to put that into some type of context, where is this non-local intelligence? Where the fuck is it located? And you're at the Department of Defense, or you're at the Defense Science Office, or you're at DARPA, you're at the Defense Intelligence Agency, you're at CIA, you're at the National Institute for Standards and Technology, NIST, NIST, you're at IARPA, any of these different agencies. If you're a fucking scientist and you're studying paranormal phenomena, parapsychology, and you're studying certain types of quantum electrodynamics, so to speak, you're probably like, what was that? Quantum electrodynamics, so to speak, QED. I'm just talking about the quantum effect, D-wave. If you're at CERN, Geneva, Switzerland, if you're a scientist sitting at home somewhere, anywhere in the fucking world, and you don't have to be part of the U.S. government. You could be part of the Swiss government, the German government, Canadian government of any of the various countries of Africa, Asia, wherever on planet Earth, Australia, different island chains. If you're a scientist or even just a casual observer, you have to ask yourself, where the fuck is the non-local intelligence database, knowledge base located? And how is it that human beings on this, air quotes, planet, how is it that our human brains, kind of like the hard drive in a computer, depending on the computer you have, if it's a desktop computer, if you pull out that hard drive, if you pull out that case and you look at it, might be about the same size as your human brain. Might be about the same size, man. I'm just saying. And if you connect to the ether, got an Ethernet connection, if you connected to broadband, if you're connected to the motherfucking web, you can communicate across the globe instantaneously. If you have a telephone and you're talking over a goddamn radio signal, come on, man, near instant communication. Or is it even near instant? There might be a delay because you're talking to someone transnationally, transoceanically. And there might be that slight delay on the phone. You know, sounds like a little echo, right? But think about it like this. Even though you perceive an echo and it seems like a delay, it's still nonetheless instantaneous communication. Yeah, you never really thought about that, did you? Even though there's the illusion and perception, and in the context of your physical reality, a delay, it's really still instantaneous communication because there is no distance between anything in the multiverse. If you study quantum entanglement, as have I. I'm just saying, man. So John Titor, where does the story come from? So some people believe it's Larry Haber. Is it Haber? And, attorney, lawyer. And that he and his family made it up. Well, maybe they did. But did they really make it up? There's something to the John Titor story, man, that's it's almost kind of dark. It's almost kind of dark, man, because I've studied it for many decades now. And yeah, when you look at it in its entirety, man, I see shit happening right now. Right now. Like people coming out into communities and congregating in ways that they would have never, ever previously. And more people talking about God and religion and spirituality. People spending more time with their families. And, you know, because of internet congestion where some people are. I mean, I'm not saying that there's internet congestion and slowdown everywhere. But look, man, a lot of people are offline. They just kind of cut the cord and shit. Yeah, they're watching streaming. But listen, he talked about that as well. He said that people were able to stream. And society still went on. And there was commerce. Look, man, this isn't too far off from what John Titor talked about. Now, I know that can be true of any science fiction book story. And yeah, hey, I'm just asking, where's the non-local intelligence? Where is it, man? So, in all seriousness, as I have often said, man, and I have to emphasize, it's not like this is new information. I didn't just come up with this. This isn't something that I'm talking about now for the first time. When I look at what is supposed to be reality, what we are told is reality, and I contrast that norm, or, you know, what is considered like real, with different instances of time-space anomalies, space-time anomalies. When you hear about these rips in the very fabric of space-time and the space-time continuum, when you hear about these events and instances of non-linear time, like time slips as we refer to them, and other such paranormal, parapsychological events, parapsychology. When you look at the paranormal, when you look at parapsychology, when you look at documented cases, United States on record documented cases, look at the shit that Edgar Cayce knew about. How the fuck did Edgar Cayce know what he knew? Like, how did he know? He was a sleeping psychic. He would go to sleep or go into this meditative type state, and he would, almost like a trance, and he would put his hand with his hand on a book at the same time. So he would have his hand on a book, and his mind, or whatever you want to, refer to it as being, his human brain, mind, energy, or non-local, or whatever it is, whatever Edgar Cayce was and is, would go out into the multiverse and see, that is, observe non-linear time. And the question is, how? How was he able to do that? How was he able to leave his human body, go out into space-time, and see different events in a non-linear fashion, manner? How could he do it? I mean, so his brain, right, the human mind, is supposedly encased in the human brain, right? That's what we're told. Well, his human mind would leave that shell, that case, similar to your computer hard drive, and information packets going out into the ether, and all of a sudden they're switching and they're doing all these different things in all these different time zones, right? And trace route, hop, skip, jump, and boom, would report back information. So he would literally leave his human body and travel out into the multiverse and see certain events in a non-linear way. And that's what Ingo Swann did, and that's what Joseph McMoneagle did, and that's what remote viewers do. He could read any word, any passage, any information from just simply sleeping with his hand on a book. And investigators, clinical psychologists, scientists, in just generally speaking, they could ask him, so on this page, what do you see? And he could read any fucking page in any book that he would fall asleep with his hand on. Now imagine that. That's not a charlatan, man. That is not a sleight of hand trick maneuver. We're talking about double blind experiment, triple blind experiment. This dude has military grade blinders on, like goggles and shit. He cannot fucking see anything. The U.S. military and Department of Defense and CIA and agencies are like, yo, this dude cannot see through the shit that we have over his fucking countenance, over his face, his eye sockets. He is fucking virtually blind. And then they would ask him questions about what's on this page in this book. And keep in mind, he's underground, like miles underground. They did the same thing with Ingo Swann. They would ask him to remote view certain coordinates out in the space. And sometimes they would try to trip him up. They would give him information. They would ask him about information, and give him like the wrong information. And he would still get it right. You know, they would try to like trick him. So Edgar Cayce, what he could do is, again, he could put his hand on a book. He could go into this meditative trance-like state, and you could ask him about any page in that book, and he would read from that book, like perfectly, verbatim, any and every word in that book to a T without fail. So the U.S. government would ask him questions about the future. So a lot of people think that Nostradamus predictions were quite accurate, when in fact they were not as accurate as Edgar Cayce's. It is said that Nostradamus's predictions were something more like 56% accurate, or something like that. You know, so I mean, it's basically like rolling the dice, man. You know, rolling the die. It's like, 50% chance, 50-50 of being accurate. Hey, listen, Nostradamus said some really interesting stuff, but when you're talking about the multiverse, as dire as some of the stuff that he channeled, as he saw, in his remote viewing sessions, it doesn't necessarily mean that, as sensational and as gripping and powerful as they may seem to some and many, doesn't necessarily mean that the stuff is going to come true. The same of what Edgar Cayce saw. Even if Edgar Cayce's information has turned out thus far to be much more accurate, that doesn't mean that everything that Edgar Cayce saw is going to be true. So Edgar Cayce, he saw Washington, D.C. underwater. He saw basically the eastern seaboard underwater, which is not fucking good. But again, not everything that he has said is accurate, just as not everything that that Nostradamus said is accurate. Albeit, they are all channeling from parallel universes of Earth. That's what we need to establish here. Some of the stuff they could not have possibly gotten correct unless they were actually remote viewing actual, factual, parallel Earths. We know that they have seen stuff that is real somewhere. That's the difference between charlatans and frauds, phonies, and bona fide gifted psychics like Edgar Cayce and Ingo Swann and Joseph McMoneagle and many others. But again, going back to what I was saying about Russell Targ and the larger point, where is the non-local intelligence coming from? Where are stories such as John Titor's story coming from? Where is that database located in the multiverse? How do humans access it? By simply thinking, what what am I going to come up with? What am I going to write? I need a story. Yeah, what does it involve? Like, characters. Yeah, where are they located? You know, what are they doing? What do they look like? What are their backstories? You know, what were they doing when they were, you know, much younger and when they were born? Like, who were their parents and, you know, their progenitors and, you know, what were the events that, you know, led to their, you know, current time, and, you know, what types of issues are they dealing with or grappling with, and what is you know, is there a challenge? Is their life just like rosy and, you know, it's just some utopia that they're living in, or, you know, is everything just like perfectly fine and dandy, or is there a set of circumstances that, you know, it involves some type of like plot and a plot twist and these types of things. So when you're thinking of those things, when you come to your conclusions, when you have those answers to your character and story development, where do they come from? So, John Titor, is it for real or is it not for real? Is it for real somewhere else and not here? I mean, man, it's a really interesting story. It's a really interesting story with a lot of real world overlap. And I know some people are like, yeah, Grove, it just happens to be coincidental, you know, that some of the stuff that this person who wrote the story, I mean, yeah, really coincidental. I mean, there are too many coincidences, man. You have to look at the mathematics behind it. There are too many coincidences for it to be just some total fabrication, is my point. It's not a typical story. It's an atypical story. And the same is true of Aldebaran, the Aldebaran system. And we've talked about Orsic, I believe is her name, before. And I've gone into great detail regarding her and the Vril and the Germans and the Nazis and how she was channeling intelligence information from an alien intelligence, of an extraterrestrial alien intelligence. She was channeling it, and the Germans knew it, and they built certain space vehicles, aircraft, and military machines, systems, platforms, based on this information that these aliens were communicating to her. So she was channeling information from the Aldebaran system, some say Aldebaran, and if you were to just read, like if it were to be framed into the context of a science fiction book, if you didn't know the backstory, the history of the Aldebaran and this woman, Orsic, who she was channeling, you would just think that it's a science fiction book or a fantasy book or a combination thereof. You would have no idea that it's based on something that happened in the real world. So the point is non-local intelligence. That's right. John Titor. Yeah. You might think it's fake. You might think it's all made up. In fact, if Haber, is it Haber or is it Haver? Larry Haber? Larry Haber? Let's see. Let's look it up. I ought to know at this point. It's been decades. Larry Haber. John Titor. And it looks like it is, in fact, Larry Haber. Says Wikipedia, a 2009 investigation concluded that Titor was likely, that is, likely, the creation of Larry Haber. Well, really now? Really now? Is that person 100% certain? Likely. I would be using the word likely very loosely. Very loosely.